Hello, this is going to be the first part of a series I'm going to create about the more advanced ideas and topics surrounding the gameplay of Rainbow Six Siege. This is not a beginner's guide into the game, and there are going to be ideas I assume most players with 100 to 200 plus hours should have. This is going to be a more advanced look into the concepts of gameplay. My main goal with many of these videos is to teach systems and concepts rather than tips and tricks or memorizing plays. Most Siege attacks do not fail because of bad aim or improper ability usage or bad map knowledge. They fail because players do not understand what they're trying to build towards. Being able to understand the different stages of an attack and how they operate is an integral part of Siege and is a core skill needed to play better. Attacking works in stages. Think of stages as mini objectives you need to complete as an attacker in order to complete the major objective, which is winning the round. Every bomb site in the game has different stages of an attack, and they are not the same across all maps or even sites. They can be different all the way down to which side of the objective you decide to attack. There is no one-size-fits-all model when it comes to attacking, although there are some core concepts that are needed to understand how to attack better. Firstly is understanding the default attacks for each site. A default attack is the strategy your team is going to employ based on the amount of effort you have to put in versus the amount of value you get out of it. The effort you put in is exactly that, the effort you have to put in. How much droning you need to do, how much roam clear you need to do, how much utility you need to clear. The value is progress towards winning the round. The less effort I have to put in to win the round, the better. If there are two options to attack, and one of them involves 2 steps before the execute, but the other option involves 5 steps before the execute, naturally, I would want to choose the less effort option. For example, on Border, the default attack for Armory and Archives is controlling security, opening the main wall, and planting in sight. The reason this is the default attack is because for this site, it is the easiest thing to do for the amount of value you get out of it. Another default attack for this site is pushing the office side of the map. Generally though, you have to put in much more effort for the same amount of value you would get attacking Armory. You need to clear more of the map, set up more flank watch, and there's less safe space to execute in sight. This causes the Armory attack to become more widely used and the overall default push used when attacking Armory and Archives. Okay, the first example I want to go over comes from the most recent Invitational. In the grand final between FaZe Clan and Team Secret, in the first round, Secret opts for an attack on the Office Archive side. I know I just said the default push is usually on the Armory side, but in Pro League the meta is a little different. They tend to opt for the Archives attack because it's a little easier for them, considering how the defenders hold security and that end of the map. So usually they tend to go for an Archives attack. So, the first stage of their attack is gaining map control of top east stairs and catwalk. The next stage is contesting office, 90, and fountain. The third stage is going to be opening sightlines into archives. And finally, they go for an execute. Since they completed all of the stages of the attack, they ultimately win the round. Okay, here is an overview from that round. At this point in the round, Team Secret already has control of top east, catwalk, some of the office hallway, some of break room, and all the way up into 90. Their ace is down right here in front of the triple wall, but Ash is on east balcony right here, putting pressure into archives from the window. Currently, what Twitch and Montaigne are trying to do is put pressure on the operators inside of Fountain in an attempt to make an execute into sight. Normally, this person would not be down, and they do end up reviving him and putting pressure on that person in sight with their Montaigne, but you get the idea. They're trying to put pressure on the person in Fountain, put pressure on the person in archives, and eventually pinch him out and go for the plant. So what can we learn from Team Secret's attack? Well, for one, I'd say it's that each stage of your attack has to be successful in order for the next stage of your attack to work. For example, you have to get top east control to be able to put pressure into office, and you have to get top east control to be able to put pressure down the hallway of 90 and then into Fountain. Once you have office control and 90 control, then it's much easier to put pressure into archives and open that archives wall. You need to do these things in the correct order, or else you're going to have a much more difficult time. Imagine you do not contest office. You wouldn't be able to open the wall into archives with a bonnet, and ultimately you'd lose the round. A much more recent example is in another match between Rebels and Falcons. This took place in the European kickoff only a couple weeks ago. Falcons are on attack in round 7 and have a much tougher time completing the stages of their objectives. Firstly, they do get control of the map on the top east stair side. Then they do contest office, but the problem lies in that they did not bring a hard breach. This means, although they are in office and can contest Fountain, they're having a much tougher time contesting archives. So, here's the position the Falcons are in. They're in a 2v4 with only an Ash and Blackbeard alive. They have no walls open on the archives wall from Office and are still having to contest Fountain from Office. They do end up taking out this mute player, but are unable to pinch out the Goyo from archives from inside of Office unless they take this doorway. Doing that would lead to unfavorable gunfights because of the Fountain walls open and the Mozzie playing on metal stairs. This gives the Falcons a tough time, and you would think you would know the outcome of the round, but it's not always the case. Fortunately for Falcons, Rebels decided they wanted to give them archives for free and then take 3 1v1 gunfights. Had Goyo stayed in archives with his team holding crossfires from other areas, they would have probably won the round. I know I said I was not going to look at specific strategies and focus on the macro, but I couldn't believe that play when I saw it, and I had to mention it. This also goes to show that even if you do not follow the most optimal plan, the default plan, you can still win rounds, albeit your opponents are going to need to make some blunders for that to happen. Another very common default push is on Clubhouse, specifically on CCTV and cache. The most common default push here is opening the main wall, taking rafters, and executing in sight, in that order. In a recent match on Clubhouse between Space Station and Wildcard in the North American League kickoff, Wildcard did just that. Very early into the round, the CCTV main wall is opened up. The very next thing Wildcard does after opening the main wall is try to flush the player out of rafters. Wildcard does just this, although on the broadcast it's kind of hard to see because they're so focused on the echo play, but pretty much as soon as the wall is opened, there's multiple players on Wildcard who are flushing that player out of rafters, and eventually they do get him out. As soon as Wildcard has access to rafters, the next thing they attempt to go for is the execute, which in this case is a plant. This attack has been happening for years now and is nothing really new. It's pretty much the most effective way of attacking CCTV and cache on Clubhouse, and you'll see most teams doing this exact strategy in this exact way. Open the CC wall, clear rafters, go for the execute. Because Wildcard decided to structure their attack this way, they won the round. Ultimately, the main takeaway is that most attack rounds that are won by following the stages of an attack. Sure, there are attack rounds that are won that definitely should not be in ranked and even in Pro League, but those are fairly rare. Understanding the stages of attacking every site and how to accomplish these stages in the most efficient way is the key to winning more attack rounds. I know it's pretty easy to say, just open the main wall, take rafters, and plant, but I'm focusing on just the macro gameplay here and how teams are following fairly strict structure on their attacks. I plan on making videos of the most effective ways to go about following stages on specific default attacks and the reason why we do these things. Thank you for your time.